Welcome to Verbal People Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday people. Like to welcome you all to the show. Today we're going to deal with the militia. And the reason why we dealing with the militia is because 13 were charged in a plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen-Whitmer. Now, the militia been around for a long time. They feel as though the citizens has to be armed in order to protect their rights from a government takeover, i.e. tyranny, right? And you know how we do it on Verbal Pick Radio. We have to get into the mindset and what's the motivational push behind such mindsets. Because there's two ways of looking at this thing, right? One, a lot of militias who support a right-wing agenda or a white supremacist agenda were leftovers from the Civil War and who were upset that the slaves were freed, particularly in the South, felt as though the government had no right because they were seeing human beings as property, and the government stepped in and overruled their mentality or their mindset. So they had weaponized themselves. Although be it in the early 1800s, they confiscated all guns from black people and only left them with, hunting rifles or whatnot, right? And go Google and look that up. So as black people now who are beginning to arm themselves, right? Because too many black men and women have been killed due to some type of racist act, been killed by racist police. And so now black people are saying enough is enough. We're fed up. So many are starting to get their CHL license. So many are starting to arm themselves to where now they looking at these militias and these white supremacist groups, and they're starting to monitor their activities, saying, hey, something has to give. Y'all militias, you put your guns down. We're going to practice tolerance. That way we can de-escalate all of these minorities from getting their CHL and purchasing guns. Right. Now I'm going to read something to you all from Odyssey. Right. Talking about the militia. And just bear with me because we're going to tie all of this in together, right? It says one of the big buzzwords of 2015 was fear of a tyrannical government. This came up most often in debates on gun control, with most traditional conservatives citing the need to defend themselves against the potential for a complete government takeover. Now, when you turn on any what they call left-wing news media, you'll hear them using terms such as Donald Trump is fueling this mindset, right? Because he's saying that he's for the red states and not the blue states. Most of the militias are considered in the red states. Most of them are bagging Donald Trump. We talking about militias, and we talking about white supremacists or colonizers who are bagging Donald Trump, right? They part of his, they bought into his ideology, right? So Trump fuels this by saying they're trying to take over. This is not true, but that's his bagging. See, it's twofold, right? See, Donald Trump knows that if he doesn't win the election, he stands a chance of being persecuted for those $420-something million that he's in debt to, and who's pulling the strings, right? But his base, he has to appeal to his base, which is a lot of right-wing militia, neo-Nazis, white nationalists, white supremacists, is part of his base that he has to pander to. So he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. But he didn't know how fanatical, or he might have known how fanatical these groups were. But the reason why some say he might not have known, and I said he might not have known, because could you imagine the president of the United States willfully knowing that his words will fuel the fanatics to where they would attempt to kidnap a governor of Michigan? But you've noticed he hasn't come out as of yet and said anything in dealing with the potential kidnapping of a governor in the United States by a militia, because he it seems as though he's taking sides now, right? Now, you'll hear this word being floated around constantly, and that word is civil war. You hear that word, it's floating around, civil war. One, you have a president whose freedom is on the line. Two, you have groups of people who feel as though their Second Amendment rights is going to be taken away if Joe Biden becomes elected, which that's rhetoric, right? The Second Amendment rights, they'll never be taken away. Unless, this is America, we got to put this on the table as well. Now, whenever black people get into the game, they always try to find a way to change the rules, change the requirements in order to achieve a goal or to be part of. They find some type of way to come up with new regulations, new rules, So we don't know where that stands, because we're projecting into the future by what's taking place or the writing that's on the wall. And remember these words, you're going to hear them being thrown around. You're going to hear civil rights. You're going to hear the Second Amendment. You're going to hear gun control, right? And you're going to hear civil war, and they're going to all be intertwined with each other, just working, right? Because you have energy now that's being fueled by the highest office in the land, which is your president. But the thing we have to figure out is, do Trump believe the rhetoric that he's saying, or does he have to say those rhetorics because that's his base and that's his only way of staying in office, so the statute of limitations can run out if he served another 4 years to keep him out of prison or out of jail? Time will tell. Right. Okay. Let's continue. These conservatives clutch tight to their rifles and ammunition and watch with a growing trepidation as laws requiring background checks and gun safety courses was passed. See, when they first were passing these background checks and gun safety, a lot of militia was outraged. But that was in response to all the police killings and shootings, right? So you had to find a way to take the guns out of the hands of the crazies, let's put it like that. This reimagining of the government as a creeping monster waiting to strike has now erupted into a full-blown standoff. Around 2 p.m. on Sunday, January 2nd, a group of heavily armed members of a militia stormed the headquarters of a wildlife refuge outside Mulhall, Oregon. The militia are protesting the change and sentencing for 2 men facing arson charges. Dwight Hammond and his son Steve were convicted of arson in 2012 and served sentences of 3 months and 1 year. Respectively, however, a judge recently ruled that their sentences were considered too short under federal law and ordered the men back to prison for at least 4 years, right? 4 years each, right? Now, this is the mindset of the militia. Hey, wait a minute. Now, see, now, let me show you this. The mindset, and this is called white privilege, right? The mindset of the militia is like, wait a minute. You can't do that to one of our own, right? They clutching their rifles. Black people, on the other hand, they killers. Cops go free. No, we say no justice, no peace. We clutch a picket sign, or we clutch a hymn book and sing "We Shall Overcome" or "Amazing Grace" or something. I'm just showing you the two different sides as we go along. The takeover began as a simple, peaceful protest, right? As it always do, right? George Floyd, we out there protesting because we don't have the mentality of militia until we're pushed or backed in a corner for so long, and now there's a dire need for self-defense. Let's put it like that. Okay. The takeover began as a simple, peaceful protest in support of the Hammonds, with townspeople gathering outside the sheriff's office, the Hammond home, and the county courthouse. From there, a group of more agitated protesters, right? They always come along, the agitated protesters. You saw it in Georgia. You see it. You see where we're going, right? All right. You're going to have the agitated protesters, right? Who actually, as you notice, was part of these right-wing groups, militias who came amongst the protesters and was starting chaos, and then bagged out and blamed it on Black Lives Matter or certain other protesters, right? And then it echoed up to your president, and he said, we don't like rioters, and try to pin that on. But the agitators, we know where they came from, and everybody knew where they came from. They were right-wingers, they was white supremacists who blended in within the protesters and created havoc so people can point the finger at black folks and say, look, they tearing down their own neighborhood. The game is played out. Okay, hold on. Okay. There are now about a dozen estimated protesters at the refuge, all heavily armed and seemingly committed to staying. We're planning on staying here for years, absolutely. Ammon Bundy, a believed key leader in the takeover, said, this is not a decision we've made at the last minute, right? Listen to it. That's what Bundy said. When they came, they're telling you, we didn't just think this up out of a hat. We've been planning for years. You know, it's like this. You see something that might have took place 10 years ago, right? It's just a drop over here. Somebody's arguing, or they'll walk up and just fire a shot in the air just to get attention, but didn't do anything else. And or you'll see them walk in the middle of downtown, displaying their weapons, right? Because now they're formulating something. They're getting you used to seeing something, right? It's a plan, right? They're thinking analytically, right? Leading up to something. You going on about your everyday life, you don't notice. By the time you really figure out what's going on, it's already up on you, right? Okay. The issue with this, the mindset, right? The execution, the issues at stake is that too many people are letting paranoia and fiction invade their lives. Is it really feasible that the government could suddenly decide one day to create a tyranny and execute total control? And even if that were so, is it feasible that a dozen men with assault rifles would stop it? And that's where you're wrong. That's where you're wrong. When you go to Trump rallies and you see all the people out there, that's part of the army. Make no mistake about it. Make no bones about it. That's part of the army, right? Believing that our current modern world still has a need for notions like militias and an armed public is perpetuating the opportunity for more mass shootings and inane beliefs. The men who took over the Mullhart Wildlife Refuge have been repeatedly quoted saying that they are there to uphold the Constitution. Right. Now, I even had, let me check this out. I even had a black female, I told you all about this, right? She said, them white boys with their gun, they here to uphold the Constitution. Now, when the Constitution was written, your ass was 3/5 of a human being. But okay. Because you do have those black people who been beat down so much to where they just ready for the plantation. You ain't even got to do nothing. They'll throw themselves on a plantation and just pick their spot and get to picking and get to working. You do have some of those that's out there because they lost faith within themselves and they lost faith within the God, and they don't believe that we'll rise one day, or they haven't had a good life for themselves, and they don't believe that they can enjoy this life. So they live at the foot of someone else. That's a sad existence. The men who took over the Mullhart Wildlife Refuge have been repeatedly quoted saying that they are there to uphold the Constitution, namely the right to bear arms and the right to the pursuit of happiness. Now these are words of white militia right wingers saying they have the right to pursue the happiness, but yet within this country you practice so much racism to keep the right of pursuit of happiness from black and brown people or minorities within America. It's all hypocritical. Contradiction. Right. Wow. But the Constitution was written at a time when the United States had just emerged from under tyrannical rule, having won a war with the help of militias, and that is what happened. America won a war with the help of the militia. So those militia feel as though they are a right arm of the government, right? You got the United States government, but then you got the militia who feel that they are entitled to, or they have some rights to do what they're doing to uphold the Constitution, right? If that's so, then we have to uphold all the treaties that America signed with the Moors, the 1790 Sundry Act, the Peace and Friendship Treaty with the Moors. We got to uphold all of them if you're going to go back and uphold the promises that you made to militia. They helped you out in the war, because Morocco was the first to recognize America as sovereign. Okay, let's keep going, right? United States had just emerged from under tyrannical rule, having won a war with the militia, and men needed arms to feed their families. Keep in mind that these guns could fire 2 to 3 shots per minute on average and took at least 2 minutes to reload. While the main focus of the Mullhart protest is to create a stage for the issues surrounding the Hammond case, it lends attention to other problems as well. We have to ask ourselves, if we as a nation truly believe that militias and an armed civilian public are practical and necessary in the world we live in now, or if there are just archaic fantasies of the past that continue to live as a possibility in the minds of the paranoid. Well, if so, you got a president up there that's fueling it. So, where we at now? Now, I do want to say they created the NFAC, which is a black militia, saying, hey, you kill one of ours, we got to kill 10 of yours. Meaning that black people are just fighting for the right to exist, to breathe, to enjoy life, to sit back and own a piece of land without some group or a supremacist group feeling as though they're bullies and they're going to come in and oppress you and take away or treat you as if you're a non-human and you're supposed to sit up there and just take it. And they fail to realize that that day and that time is over. Now, as far as Gretchen-Whitmer, 13 people were charged Thursday in an alleged domestic terrorism plot to kidnap Michigan Democratic Governor Gretchen-Whitmer, federal and state officials announced. The alleged scheme included plans to overthrow several state governments that the suspects believe are violating the U.S. Constitution. See, since the militia helped fought the war to uphold the U.S. Constitution, they took it amongst themselves that they have the right to arm themselves and do whatever they feel is necessary to uphold the Constitution. Right? But no one that's up on high check them. No, I don't care if you're saying if it's Biden or if it's Trump. Biden didn't come out and say, hey, look, which he understands. He didn't come out and say, hey, look, militia. We thank you for your services, right? But no, we don't. It's played out. We don't need it anymore. We got it from here. We got the military. We got the army. We're good. But thank you anyway. So we don't need you storming buildings, kidnapping governors, all on the guys that you're protecting the Constitution. Because by them saying, hey, we're doing this to protect the Constitution, it in their mindset, it gives them right to do what they're doing. So now FBI swoops in, right, arrest 13 of them. So now you got other militia members saying, hey, wait a minute, you're going to have to let because we got proof that the blue states are trying to change the Constitution and they're trying to abolish the Second Amendment. They say, what proof? Because it's all speculation. But if you believe it and they say it so much, in their mindsets, it becomes a reality. And that reality, you're going to have to deal with, right? Okay. 6 people were charged federally with conspiracy to kidnap, and 7 other people associated with the militia group Wolverine Watchmen were charged by the state. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel announced. Now, what is the Wolverine Watchmen? What are you watching? Watching the government to make sure that their interpretation of the Constitution is upheld. Right? The individuals in state custody are suspected to have attempted to identify the home addresses of law enforcement officers in order to target them, made threats of violence intended to instigate a civil war. Told y'all that word is going to come up, right? Now, the closer it gets to election time, the more crazier it's going to get. Black people wake up. Brown people wake up. Poor white folks wake up. Asians, Arabs, Indians, Sikhs, Punjabis, Ethiopians, whatever. Wake up. Wake up. You around here just living life lackadaisical, head in the air, and there's so much just going on around you that if you don't see it now, by the time you react and wake up, it'll be damn near too late. But we hey, we're gonna keep rolling, right? Let me read that again. Made threats of violence intended to instigate a civil war and engage in planning and training for an operation to attack the Capitol building of Michigan and to kidnap government officials, including the governor of Michigan, Nessel said at a press conference. The arrests are likely to draw additional attention to the public tensions rolling the nation in the closing weeks of the 2020 election season. What did I say? It's finna get crazy. And underline warnings from law enforcement, officials, members of Congress, and groups that track extremism about the increasing threat of extremists and far-right groups. Whitmer at times has been the focus of extreme vitriol from far-right groups over her handling of the coronavirus pandemic, when she was like, we're going to shut down, we're going to put these masks on, they saying you violating the constitutional rights, we're going to, and that's all they need to spark it. But the intention is a civil war. If Trump loses. Right. But one thing that someone brought to my attention that made them rest easy is the fact that the government was on the case, FBI was on the case, and for the plan of that group, but the mindset of the militia, you don't know if that was put out as a coy, right, to where the real plot is being perpetrated behind the scenes, and while you looking over this way, they're over here doing something else. We don't know, because the mindset of those many, it's not just a few, the mindset of those who think like that unite and move on that accord. It could be a problem, with all I'm saying. In an interview on CNN's Erin Burnett Out Front on Thursday night, Whitmer thanked law enforcement for making the arrest. This is unlike anything we have seen before. The brave men and women of these two police organizations put their lives on the line to keep me and my family safe, she said. I'm incredibly grateful and humbled by the work they do. In televised remarks Thursday afternoon, Whitmer said she knew this job would be hard, but I'll be honest, I never could have imagined anything like this. She specifically blamed President Donald Trump, who has repeatedly declined to condemn far-right groups. That's where we at. Wake up. That is where we at today. And in this COVID period, it's pushing everything to the front. It's pushing everything to the shore. It's like you think you hide something, you throw it in the water, whatever, littering, and in time, waves and hurricanes and pushes it right back on the shore. Now you got to deal with this mess. You're looking at it. It's all around you. Right? And you have to deal with it in order to have peace on the other side. President Trump has continually condemned white supremacists and all forms of hate, McEnany said in a statement to CNN. Governor Whitmer is sowing division by making these outlandish allegations. America stands united against hate and in support of our federal law enforcement who stopped this plot. The six charged by the federal government are Michigan residents Adam Fox, was 37, Ty Garbin was 24, Caleb Franks, 26, Daniel Harris, 23, Brandon Caserta, 32, and Delaware resident Barry Croft was 44. Wow. Hey, the 7 people charged by the state are Paul Bellar, 21, Sean Fix, 38, Eric Molitor, 36, Michael Noel, 38, William Noel, 38, Pete Musico, 42, Joseph Morrison, 42. They face a variety of firearm and terror charges, right? Of course, they're terrorists. Of course. I mean, and you still want to use black people as scapegoats for all the ills that take place in America. And the thing that gets me, though, you know, is that all Christians, white Christians, and white organizations need to come out and call these people terrorists and condemn them, like you, when a black person commit a crime, you call them thug and so, and come on, man. These people, these are the type of people who blew up the federal federal building in Oklahoma. These are the type of people, who just go up in a school or a church or a Sikh temple or synagogue and just shoot up the place, right? But yet and still, you watch black people throughout America as though we want to take something from you. I'm just saying we're in a new day and time, and new mindsets are emerging from all of this hatred and white supremacy and racism and systemic racism. There's a new mindset that is emerging out of all that pile of trash that's saying, we not taking no more shit. Verbal Peak Radio, we're out.